Should we start with the prayer?
Absolutely.
All right.
First, I would just like to take a moment and invite God into this moment with us and acknowledge the present moment, because this is the best moment and the only moment. Father God, we just want to thank you that we could be here and open our minds and just chat about our experience, strength, and hope with our daily lives and our daily struggle. We pray not to be selfish, self-seeking, dishonest, or fearful. We pray to do the next right thing and focus on your will. Even though we'll struggle at times and still commit sin, we know you will still continue to bless us and be in our lives. We pray for protection over our family and friends. Please keep them safe and always guide us in our daily approach to life. We appreciate you and we love you. We say these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank you, bro.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So what's up? I feel like it's been forever, like since we've talked or even seen each other. Like, how's things going?
They're going well. Yeah, it's been several months since I've been back at SOAR in this building. I believe my recovery kind of got watered down, and I was kind of just going through the motions. Just kind of spreading myself too thin. Being the yes man. Yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do this. And I was really, I want to say these last 2 years were like my worst years in recovery, but in all actuality, it led me closer to God and have a stronger relationship with God, and all the turmoil and the being restless, irritable, and discontent had to happen, like it had to happen to make me realize that I have to continue to do the basics that help me stay clean and sober and help me achieve long-term sobriety. Does that make sense?
Yeah, bro. So what was going on? Like, so obviously you same sobriety date, what, 13?
January 17th, 2012.
Yeah.
So, just when I had that surgery, and then some struggles with relationship issues and stuff like that, at home.
Yeah.
And it was all me. It was all like insecurities and jealous issues and stuff. Having that surgery kind of stirred up some stuff, and
what was that? What was that surgery like? Like, so where what? It was in Mexico, right?
Yeah. Went and had the gastric sleeve done probably almost 2 years ago, and you think it would give you the courage of 100 men, and you'd be like just stoked and big old ego and all this kind of stuff. It did like the opposite for me. Like, it stirred up a bunch of trauma and stuff that had been stored in my body all those years.
Wow.
And kind of just released some chemicals and stuff, and made me kind of off balance, and made me just very, very fearful, fearful of everything, just like scared of my own shadow. Like, I'd be in a room full of my peers that I've been working with forever. Even coming to SOAR, like, I'd be in the group room just uncomfortable, uncomfortable in my own skin, trying to figure out who I am and kind of how to go about this new lifestyle and body and stuff, and
Do you think, so Sandy got it done too, right?
Yeah.
So do you think it like had something to do with, like, so you start looking better, she starts looking better and feeling better, and then like were you insecure that like if you were good enough for her, like that type of thinking?
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah. So, and like thinking like maybe she's gonna want somebody else, and all that stuff that recovering addicts have, and then just all the prior relationships that I had before that I was basing them, on this new marriage, and comparing that with this, and there was not, and this one's nothing like that.
Like
you know?
what? Like people letting you down in relationships?
Yeah, like and you know, being cheated on, and just, you know, from a younger age, like I think I've always had this insecure gene, like this character defect. I remember being, and you know, I've tried to trace it back as far as I can to, you know, to deal with it, and like, oh, why do I act this way? You know, why do I do these things and act this way? You know, and I've traced it clear back to like as far as, you know, like 7 years old, you know, and just the stuff that happened to me when I was a little kid, you know, with like the sexual abuse and stuff like that, and just, you know, having little girlfriends, you know, and them, you know, wanting another guy, you know, that feeling, you know, and stuff of being betrayed and stuff like that. And just, you know, and like we talked the other day, what I boiled it down to is, I'm still trying to run the show, you know, still trying to, play God instead of letting him, take over and really take that, character defect away. You know?
How do we let him take it completely? So it's funny. I was talking to another guy this morning about it, about the surrender. How do we let it, like, so in your instance with this whole example you just gave with being the insecurity and stuff, like what does that look like when you surrender it?
I think when I truly surrender it, I'm doing all the basic things in life that keep me away from it, you know, because these insecurities and character defects that we've developed, they're going to be with us the rest of our life, right? So a lot of people, when we go through the 12-step process and we do 6 and 7, and we ask God to remove these shortcomings that we just admitted to our sponsor that was on the 4th and 5th step, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, they're not just going to go away overnight. Like, we're going to have to work on them the rest of our life, and we'll be able to keep them at bay and kind of keep them down over here, you know, but every once in a while they'll rear their ugly heads up and about. But what it means to me is I'm doing all the things, like I've truly surrendered. I'm doing step 3 to the best of my ability. You know, I'm making that decision each and every day to turn my will over to him, and then I'm going out there and I'm following it up by putting in action and being a good person to everyone that I come across. You know what I mean? So love and tolerance, I'm carrying that code into every situation to the best of my ability. And I still fall at it, you know, I still fail at it, I mean, and fall or whatever, you know. And so, but what I mean is I'm going to meetings weekly. I'm getting up, I'm doing, you know, my morning routine in the morning. I'm studying scripture, you know, I'm studying the big book. I'm doing those things, you know, I'm reaching out to people throughout the day, you know, working with another alcoholic, you know, just working, you know, what it says on the back of the chip, you know, trust God, clean house, and help others. I'm doing those 3 things on a daily basis, you know, and so that helps keep me away from those character defects, you know. And I failed to enlarge my spirituality over the last couple of years. That's where it was. I was kind of resting on my laurels, like, I don't need to go to as many meetings, you know what I mean? I'll stay home and watch TV, that kind of stuff, you know, instead of always seeking and searching and learning to be better, you know?
Yeah, bro. So it's so similar to me. You know, I look at the last 2 years of my recovery journey, and, you know, obviously I had my relapse, but like it's like I wake up and do my spiritual work, like it's almost like I was checking things off the box, like, oh, I did my reading, oh, I did my journaling, you know, and that was all good. But then I wasn't stepping out into the world with that mindset of what I was journaling and what I was reading, and I wasn't stepping into the world with a spirituality about me, and that reflects a person that's in recovery. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I remember coming here the past 2 years and just dreading coming to work with people. You know, like, gotta go over to SOAR. You know what I'm saying? And that's not how this place got built. No. You know what I mean? That's not how I was when I started it. And And you know, I don't even know if I noticed it until now. Like after I had to relapse and go into rehab and work the steps again. And now, I mean, now I'm like, I can't wait to come over here and work with people. So I guess what happened? Like, what is that? You know, and, you know, when I first got out of, Action, and I went back to work up over, so they moved me, I'm at Mountain High now. Dude, those first 2 months, like, I was an absolute mess. I mean, you can ask Frank here, anywhere, so insecure, you know, wondering, you know, thinking that, you know, like, I felt like I had it in my head, I was like, they're just putting me in a corner. Like I come up here to soar and they don't want me to do anything. And, you know, and I was, and I had built out this narrative, this insecure narrative about, and then up at Mountain, the place that I'm working now, like I'm just insecure, trying to do more. I got to show everybody how good at my job I am and how good I am at working with people in recovery. You know what I'm saying? That kind of and it wasn't until I would say the last month or 5 or 6 weeks that where I just stopped and I said to God, I said, I just can't do this anymore. And it started with the swearing thing, you know. I was like, you know, and I can't do this anymore. I can't try to get people to love me. You know what I mean? And that's been a big thing. You talk about your, you know, me and you are very similar because I just never feel like I'm enough. You know what I mean? No matter how much I do, I write another book, I get another degree, you know, is that enough? Like, is people going to like me now? Or am I going to like myself now?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think I'm moving past that as I move into this kind of man in the back transformation. I mean, I hope there's not much, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't know if I can keep doing that anymore. You know what I mean? I mean, there's nothing that leads me to more, I don't want to say suicidal because I've never been like suicidal, but more just wanting it all to end because of how much suffering I'm creating for myself by trying to do more and feel some type of love. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. And that's kind of where I'm at, like with it too but I'm, you know, if I'm reading now and I'm going to do my morning routine, like I'm not just doing it. I'm going to step into the world and be it.
Right. You're going to wholeheartedly put your whole heart into it. Right.
Right.
Right. And that's what I think kind of happened with both of us. Right. We kind of started resting on our laurels, and, you know, I work in the recovery field too. And I was the same way. Like I just dreaded to go to work, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, even though you're working with other alcoholics, it was just like, became so routine to me, like, you know, and I was kind of just wasn't doing anything for and I wasn't enlarging my spiritual contact with Jesus, you know,
yeah.
which is my higher power. You know, I wasn't making him a priority and making him bigger than all my problems, you know, and I wasn't enlarging that part. And that's why I was restless, irritable, and discontent on a daily basis, you know? And so
what is it with substance abusers? Why, you know, every podcast we've done or anyone I'm talking to, we're all just seeking to get closer to God. Like, how come we have to do that?
It's the only thing that's worked for us. Like, really, a power greater than ourselves is really the only thing that's worked for us. You know, he's the only one that's been able to remove the mental obsession and that physical allergy. Like, really, for myself, you know, like there's just no other way about it, you know. And I know, and here's the thing, Hawk, I was armed with the facts about myself, and I knew that I shouldn't have been doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I knew I shouldn't have been resting on my laurels, right? And so, but I did it anyways. You know, I did it anyways to the point to where I got, you know, I'm living in that addictive behavior mode every day, you know.
But yet you're sober.
Yeah, I mean, I can still be a pile of garbage in recovery, you know, by being selfish, self-centered, self-seeking, all that kind of stuff, you know. You know, you start to tell little fibs here and there, you know, like, and it's all bad, you know. I can still be just a horrible person in recovery if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, if I'm not learning those things that I've done over the last 13 years, you know.
Do you think why we want God in our life so much? It's not only like I can't stay sober without him. But do you also think it's because like we still want to get high, and if I start feeling, it's been coming into my heart lately, but if I start feeling like I'm not spiritual, like I don't know, like there's some things like if I listen to Eminem too much, in movies with sex in it for some reason, block it. Resentment's the number one. I mean, if I catch myself with I'm practicing what I say to somebody like out of spite and pissed off feeling, you know, so then you don't feel good, right? You do not feel good when I don't anyway, like especially late now. And so then I'm like, oh, I got to get back with God, dude. Like and so then it's like I'm one thought away, I can move away. And this has been big because I'm understanding his grace. Like he's forgiving. It's okay. You're over there. Come back over here. I'll help you feel spiritual now. And I have an out loud prayer and get back with him. And then, but I need it's like a constant, like, dude, I want to be over, because then when I get that spirit back and that kind mind floats back into my heart, dude, I'm high. Like, but it's not high. I'm not straight up euphoric, but like last night I go to my little boy's birthday party and I'm content. I'm just hanging out. I'm present. I'm reading a little bit on my phone, you know, just no scrolling. I got Neil A. Maxwell up reading about Christ and conversating with people, and I'm in a good place and it feels good because I have that spirit. You know what I'm saying? And the biggest thing I'm learning this go around from this relapse is that I'm one thought away and one little check in with God away to getting back right to where I can move in alignment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And you mentioned something about resentment. Do you guys know what resentment is? It's old anger. It's old anger. So we have to judge someone, find them guilty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so what is that telling us? That we're trying to play God still. You know what I mean? When we're in resentment mode, we're still trying to run the show. And we run it horrible. Like we run it right into the ground, right? We run it, if you think about it, we ran it into the rooms, you know what I mean? Into the rooms of recovery, you know? Like and that's great, you know, that's great. But, you know, unfortunately, when I try to run the show completely, I run it into the streets and become homeless again, and start, you know, doing things that I shouldn't be doing. You know,
that old anger is interesting. I've never heard it like that.
Yeah.
You know, the worst thing about resentment is when you end up saying it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I build up a resentment against my wife, and it's in my head, and I think she's maybe, I don't know, I'm just using examples, cheating on me or something. And I build it all out, and I'm just mad, and then I say something, and it's way off base. I've had times when people look at me like I'm crazy. Like, you really have been thinking about that? Like, that's when it becomes real. You really run the risk of damaging some relationships if you allow that resentment to go and then you act on it. That's when it gets pretty dark.
Well, right. And think about it. 99% of the stuff, and we talk about this in SOAR and recovery all the time, right? 99% of the stuff that goes through our head doesn't ever even happen, right? So what does that tell you? We are so selfish and self-centered that we're constantly trying to run the show, right? Just constantly trying to run the show. Like, I'm really trying to get into truly surrendering and letting my higher power really run my life, you know. And it takes practice, like on a daily basis. I mean, spot check inventories. I'm constantly doing positive affirmations all throughout the day now, you know, with God. Like, I have a whole list on my phone that I rattle off in the morning, you know, like, and it takes me a good, you know, 20-25 minutes to do this, you know. But it's crucial for me, for a guy that struggles with loving himself, you know.
Yeah.
So,
and that and that practice throughout the day helps you stay connected through God, and then you carry a prayer in your head as you travel throughout the day.
And my hope is to get it to be subconsciously in my mind.
What's
you know
that
what I mean?
part in the book? My favorite part, where it becomes a working part of your mind, right?
It just gradually happens.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like the same thing with recovery, you know. I get up and it just becomes naturally to me. I just do recovery on a daily basis. At first it's a struggle, you know. You're learning the process, you're learning how to stay clean, you're learning how to deal with, all of life's curveballs and stuff like that. But then over time, it just gradually becomes a working part of your mind, and you know exactly what to do on a daily basis.
If you could give one person something to work on, like, if one thing that we could talk about, I think, what about, isn't it patience? Like saying, all right, I'm going to be more patient today. And wouldn't patience, if you worked on patience, wouldn't that increase your spiritual condition?
Oh, absolutely.
I'd say patience has to be one of the biggest things, right? Like, because it's like we're all involved in this big clinical experience in this world, and everybody has their free agency, and we can misuse our free agency whenever we want because we're free agents. And if someone misuses their free agency, it causes others to suffer. So, like, you know, the guy who rear ends me because he was on his phone, and I can get up and lose my mind. But if I'm going to stay connected to my higher power, like, I got to get out and have the kind mind and say, you all right, man? You hurt your neck? You know, you all right? Everything okay? You know, yeah, don't worry about that. You just rear-ended me. Like, we're cool, bro. I got insurance. Let's hug it out. I'm just glad we're both okay. Like, that would be but then he might not be that way. He might be mad because I slammed on my brakes. Right. And he might be really rude to me and tell me to F off. And then what do I have to do? I got to still stay nice. Hey, bro, I might have had some fault in this, but I'm just glad you're okay, buddy.
It's funny. It's funny you say that because about a week and a half ago, at work, the Meals on Wheels lady backed into my car. Okay, and we're down a car, right? Because we were just in that horrible car accident.
No
right?
way.
Yeah. So she backs into my car, and my employee comes in, and he says, "Hey, the lady just backed in your car," and I'm like, "You're effing kidding me," you know?
Yeah.
And I get up and I storm out the building, and the lady's standing out there, and I'm like, "You're effing kidding me," like that. I didn't say it loud, but I said it. And then I realized, I looked at this lady who's just petrified, and immediately my program of recovery kicked in. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, you got to carry love and tolerance in your heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was able to, go over and kind of console this lady and help her, through the process, because it was her first time, and there's a process that we have to follow. We got to call certain people, and then the fleet manager has to come, and we have to do all these reports, and then they have to pick her up, take her to go take a UA and all this stuff, and then someone else has to pick up the vehicle and stuff like that. So, instead of being a big jerk about it, and flying off the handle, because that was my first response, yeah. Right? And then you realize, that's not how you're trying to live, you know what I mean? And if you go down that road, you're going to be restless, irritable, and discontent the rest of your night, And so I was able to catch it, but like I said, we're always going to have to practice at it, and we're always going to have our moments, of weakness, and we were born into sin, right?
Yeah.
So
the worst part is when you are being nice and someone misrepresents you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's when, that's when I go into the head prison and practice what I want to say.
Right.
And I'll think about almost, if we throw down, I'll get him. Like, what I mean? Like I'm just sitting there thinking about fighting, you know what I mean? And when my blood boiling gets like that, then I get susceptible to sending out mean text messages and.
Oh yeah. And then it's over, right?
Yeah,
it's your spiritual fitness is shot, and you have to start back over, which is beautiful. We can do that. It says it many times, in the big book, that many times throughout the day I'm repeating to myself, thy will be done, thy will be done.
Thy will be done.
So
yeah, so maybe that is what surrender is. Like true surrender is surrendering to the fact that others are going to misuse their agency, and you're not going to be perfect either. And we all just have to be patient with one another. And you have to be patient with the person who's not patient with you.
And we might not know what God's will is each and every day, Hawk, but we certainly know what it's not, right? We don't want to go out there and hate on people, be ignorant to people, be mean to people, just do all the things that we do when we're out there using, right? And so I believe even though we're imperfect and we're going to sin, I believe us seeking and searching, trying to better our life and grow closer to God, in fact, it pleases him. You know what I mean? I really do. Even though we're imperfect, I think it still pleases him that we're seeking and searching to better ourselves under his direction,
And I think when you're living like that with God and you have that relationship, he's got a sense of humor towards you. Like,
has to.
I feel like he giggles at me all the time. He's like, bro, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And that's that's part of this new grace. I'm a guy in my ward, man, like this young kid, returned missionary, where I teach elders quorum, on Sundays up at church, and it's awesome. There's just a bunch of like old men in there, and I'll just get them talking, and they just teach me. You know what I mean? Like dudes who have some amazing men, like dudes who've tried to be like Christ their whole life, and like 80 plus years old, And this young kid, bro, he goes, we were talking about how to keep the spirit, just like what we're talking about. And this young kid's like, I really think you start understanding how the Holy Ghost works when you understand grace and how God forgives. And like, you're not going to be perfect. You can't be. Why would Christ even have gone through what he did in the garden and sweat from every pore, and then gets dragged up on Golgotha and put on the cross, and the one part of that story that I love, bro, is when he's on the cross and he asks God to forgive him. Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then he's hanging there with those thieves, or the two other guys, and he's counseling them and still coaching. You know what I mean? And then another part is cool, like another Christ showing his services when he gives up the ghost there at the end, and it says that he goes into the spirit prison. There's a part in the Bible, and my understanding of that, not this, people be different, but this is that he goes and he's going and coaching and being a missionary and helping people in spirit prison before he gets resurrected again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But like, if like watching him, even during his ministry and everything, and just even that component when he was suffering deeply, he was forgiving everybody, had patience. I'm talking like the greatest suffering anybody's ever had to go through.
And he still had love and tolerance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like really, we should be carrying that in our hearts each and every day, and we struggle. We struggle.
That's why I love having Christ as my higher power. I'm not telling anybody either that they need to do what I do. But the thing I like about Christ as a higher power is you can study about him, and there's books about him, and you know, in the New Testament, it really shows how he acted, and it can give me a pattern to try to act in my own life. I mean, you know, my favorite word is meek, the word meek and lowly. And that's what Christ was. Like, he never was trapped in his head with fear, resentment, or insecurity. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think I talked about this last time, but when he's just kicking it on the boat and he falls asleep and that storm's coming and all his apostles are tripping out.
Yeah.
And he wakes up and he's like, oh, ye like little of faith. Or he's like, dude, you guys got no faith. Like,
right.
Don't you guys just relax? I got this. You know what I mean?
And that's what it really is, right? Right, Hawk? If we truly are waking up each and every day and turning our will over to you know, our higher power, which is Christ, and we truly are surrendering to him, then there's really nothing to worry about. There really isn't. Like, the only reason we worry and do that is because we're selfish, self-centered, and self-seeking, right?
Yeah.
And we're still trying to run the show,
yeah.
You know? And so, and it takes us away from him, right? It takes us away from that present moment with him. And that's, you know, I believe the adversary trying to get us to go back, you know? And that's why the present moment is always so hard to stay in the present moment, right? Because we're always searching and seeking to stay in that present moment, you know? And, you know, you got a guy on the wall, you know, Mr. Rogers, that said the most important thing that you can give somebody is your undivided attention, you know?
Yeah,
like,
he said that?
Yeah, he said.
I've heard you say that to me a lot.
And that's why I when I first came in, that's who I first saw on the wall was Mr. Rogers. He's just, you know, like, just... He was an amazing person.
So you watched the movie. You told me to. I don't ever think I watched it. I remember you telling me to watch that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. Huh?
Yeah. Yep. He was. If you do some research on him, like, yeah, he was just. He was an amazing man. So.
Jeez, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll.
And when he'd pray for people, he would say their whole name. You know, their whole name. He'd pray. You know, how we pray for our family and friends. He would say their whole name, you know.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Which I found kind of special, you know. Like, and I try to do that too, you know, for my family members and friends and stuff like that too. But people that he didn't even know, you know, he would find out their name and say their whole name, you know, in prayer. Yeah. Which I thought was special.
How the world's changed since Mr. Rogers had his show on cable TV when we were kids.
Right? I mean, what banished.
What a beautiful time that was. He just was a simple little show with that little train.
Right. Right. Now people think it's weird.
Yeah, my kids wouldn't even have the attention span to pay attention to something like that. I mean, maybe.
I remember thinking it was silly as a kid, you know, and then here you grow up and become a drug addict and be homeless and stuff, and then now you're like, you want to just try to be just like him, you know, like, you know, want to be just like Mr. Rogers, you know.
Bro,
like,
this guy's got it figured out. Yeah. Remember he put on his shoes. And
yeah.
Like, oh, dude.
The meekest guy on the planet, you know.
Yeah,
like,
that guy did a lot of good, man.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I have a hard time lately with like the political stuff, you know, like I enjoy watching it for some reason, like on the reels, like what's going on and what Trump's doing. But God, I'm noticing that if I start talking about that with somebody, like it cannot be great. Like you run the risk of getting an argument with somebody, you know, and I mean, what a world that we live in of we can get on our phones and just get mad. I can get mad about, you know, and you don't know what's true.
No, that's the thing. Like, there's so much misinformation out there right now, and you're exactly right. Like I have people in my family that you know, that are Democratic, and then the other people that are Republican, you know, and they've gotten in big old battles, and people don't talk anymore. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, I don't want to live my life like that. If I want to live my life like that, I'll go back to using and just a life full of drama and chaos. You know, like
Yeah.
it's not for me. And just you know, a good friend of mine says, you know, the only thing I really have control over is just this right here, this reach right here
Yeah.
is all I have control over. You know,
Yeah.
and when I stay in my lane and stay in that, I'm
Content.
good. Yeah. So
Yeah. I find it interesting, like with the fentanyl stuff that like, and how it's come across the borders. And I don't know how that all worked out, but I know and maybe it's because we didn't have media, and you tell me, cause you're in this world, but isn't the door to substance abuse and addiction so wide open right now? Like it's just, I mean, and do you think it can be shut?
I think we can trim it down a little bit, but they're always going to find ways to get it in, just because it's a $1 billion enterprise. You know what I mean? And there's too many people that have too much power.
Yeah.
I mean, you get up there in the billions and trillions of dollars worth of money.
Yeah.
People, they're gonna bring it across whether we like it or not.
Right.
You know, and it's such a horrible time to be. Say you're a young kid and you're starting to go down that road of, you know, getting into, you know, marijuana and drinking, and then you're starting to, you know, try to do other substances and stuff, you know, and everything's cut with crappy fentanyl now, you know.
Yeah.
It's just a horrible time to become a drug addict right now. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, hey, I want to do speed, but it's cut with fentanyl, you know, a downer, you know. And
Yeah.
it's just like, I tell people that too. I'm like, especially these young kids, like, I mean, it's the worst time in the history of, you know, drug use to become a drug addict right now. It really is, you know. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so dangerous, and you're just you never know. You really
Right.
don't. It's just
how easy it is to smoke weed. Like, I mean, you can smoke it right in any public event. I've seen kids that just hit it and then they blow it down their shirt, you know, and it's just that weird. It doesn't completely smell like it. You can, cause it's, you know, it's the oil, but it does. But then they can just walk away and you can't tell who smoked. So it's just easy. Like, who would have thought that you could smoke weed in the halls of your high school?
well, right. And you got
When I was in high school, you couldn't smoke weed in the halls of your high school. You
right,
know what I mean?
right. Well, and you got these grown adults that don't care about these younger kids, and they're selling them in these little odd-end gas stations. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can go in pretty much anywhere around here in Ogden and get weed out of some of these gas stations. Like,
Really?
yeah, like real dab pins and everything. You know, like, it's just like where I work, right around the corner, you can walk right into that store and buy weed. You know, like, it's just crazy. Like, I mean, we're constantly confiscating stuff from these clients that bring stuff back from that store. You know?
Wow.
Yeah. And
That's
it's just like,
crazy.
yeah.
What's it? Have you grown in your understanding or seen a lot of kratom?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, large amounts of it, especially at, you know, the sober living place that I'm involved with,
Yeah.
and then especially over at Stepping Stones as well too. You know,
So it's probably a lot of dudes who are doing heroin or whatever, and then they think they can pass a drug test, or they think kratom helps them, right? Is
Yep.
is there a lot of believing that's kind of what they're saying? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, with it being in the gas stations, we've talked about this on here before, but man, I don't think that's going anywhere good. Do you?
No, it's setting people up for failure. You know what I mean? Especially how they're marketing these drinks and stuff, that they're a safe alternative to other energy drinks. You know, and
Yeah.
then people are ruining their recovery by taking them. You know, like,
Yeah. So I wonder how many people are out there that the same thing happened to them that happened to me. Like, you know, you're a recovering opiate addict, doing well. looks beautiful. Like, man, this will calm me down.
Well, they got lawsuits.
Yeah.
That company has lawsuits, you know, that
Yeah.
whatever.
Feel free.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they got lawsuits against them because of that, you know. But what's funny is the people that make it are in recovery.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Oh, really?
yeah, like they're like, we're gonna make a safe alternative drink to where you can kind of get that little safe buzz, you know, like, and then people started abusing them, you know, like, and we're addicts, like we'll abuse anything, you know,
Yeah.
like it's just we go hard on anything that we do. Like I can never safely do anything. Like it doesn't matter if it's shoes or candles, you know what I mean? Like hats,
Candles.
you know, like I go through spurts, like, oh, I'll buy 1 million candles and then it'll be 1 million shoes, you know, and then, oh, I'll be into baseball cards, you know, like it's just, you know, we're all over the place,
Yeah,
you know, it's
it's
just, yeah, it's that addictive personality, you know, and,
What do you think about like the homeless problem? Like, because I know you're in that world, and we've talked. Like, do you think it's a homeless problem or is it a drug addiction problem?
I generally think it's a little bit of both. I see people out there that are really chronically homeless, that are really trying to, you know, get back on their feet. You know, so, you know, you got some people that have done really well, and they just fell on some bad times, and they've lost everything. You know, but then again, I see a lot of other people out there that have just chose to be chronically homeless for 30 years, and they just don't want to follow any type of rules or any guidelines, and they don't want to have any of that accountability in their life, and that's what happens. They get out there in the streets, they start hanging out with other people that are using, you know, just the old barbershop mentality. You hang out at a barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut, right?
Right.
So, and then a lot of them, you know, just continue to go down that thing, you know, and where Utah is like a employment first and you know, housing first state, you know, like we've tried the whole thing where you house these homeless individuals first to get them off the street so they're safe and stuff, you know, but they're still so chemically dependent that they don't know how to maintain that housing, right? And they end up giving it away, or they let other people move
Turns
into
into a
it.
trap
Turns
house.
into a trap house within days, you know, and so so housing first isn't the option, you know what I mean? Like, or employment first isn't the option for an addict. It really isn't.
Yeah.
Like I gave away so many damn jobs because, you know what I mean? Like I'd go to start working, you know, the mental obsession or their physical allergy would kick in, and I ain't showing up to work, right?
Yeah.
I'm giving it away because I've been up all week on methamphetamines and I ain't showing up, you know? And so
Yeah.
you know, it's a waste of time to try to get employment first when you're still battling substance use and alcoholism.
Yeah, you can't get anything done, and you can't be dependable. Like,
No,
there's nothing.
no.
You know, it's got to be treatment first, right?
I believe so. You know?
Because the little bit that I've worked in it and seen people with it is like the wintertime is hard. They think of some of the people I know think about treatment. Oh, they get uncomfortable. But springtime hits and it's party time.
Right.
They can sleep in the canyon. They can, you know what I mean? And that's not for all, but then they, you know, a lot of them are doing meth so they can get these little gigs, and, you know, they maybe mow a lawn or, you know, and then it's like, it's just easier to stay homeless, you know?
Right. And I see it. Me and you both see it in the field that we work in. They're like, oh, if I could just get a job, I'd be okay, you know? And you're like, no. You know what I mean? Like, no.
Yeah.
Like, what's that job going to do for you when you haven't fixed anything up here, you know, or
Yeah.
in here, you know? Like, and I see it all the time, you know? If I could just get a job, I'll be fine. I'll be okay, you know? And then they just end up giving the job away, you know? So,
Man, I don't know if there's a solution to it. It's sad.
yeah, the homeless thing is it's a tricky thing, you know. I wish I had like Elon Musk's money or something, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, but even then, you know, like you get that amount of money, like you have all these billionaires that have all this amount of money. Why aren't why aren't we taking care of the homeless problem? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, do you believe that if you had that amount of money, would you do good with it?
Yeah, I would, but like I don't, because isn't it like California's throwing a lot of money at the homeless problem, right? And it's like almost just gotten worse. Because I was thinking, because I went to Denver a year ago, and I walked around down there and saw that. Have you been there? It's the homeless problem's bad
No,
in Denver.
I heard from my
And-
friends that it's bad.
I mean, it's everywhere, but like, I was thinking, like, if you make it easy for them to be homeless, just like if a parent makes it easy for their kid to be a drug addict in the basement by letting them stay there and like feeding them and enabling then they're just going to stay a drug addict in the basement. Don't you think? And then, so like if the state or if someone makes it easy, it's going to be hard. It makes it easy for them to be a drug addict. Like it'll just keep getting bigger, like, and I'm no expert, but if you look at how you handle a substance abuser in the home who won't stop. I mean, what advice do you give somebody who's using heroin? What advice do you give to a family whose kid won't quit running and is stealing all their stuff out of their house? What do you tell them?
Buckle up. Buckle up.
What do you tell them? That you got to let them out? Like you can't live in my house anymore?
Yep, you got to set up those healthy boundaries and not the enabling boundaries. The best thing that my family did for me was cut me loose.
Yeah.
Cut me loose. My sister was still always there for me, but I mean, the majority of my family didn't want anything to do with me. And so that fear of losing them completely and the fear of losing their love kind of was one of the reasons that catapulted me into finally surrendering, and
Yeah.
so it plays a huge part. You'll hear the if you enable the addict, you're going to bury the addict kind of thing.
Yeah.
I've seen it at firsthand. So
Yeah. Well, I look at it here for me. I mean, that's what Frank did here for me, even though like I was pissed at Frank
right.
and
Right.
those guys when they said, hey, you can't come back to SOAR. I mean, legit, Frank sent me a text of a contract and said, I am not allowed back at SOAR. And if you do this and this and this and then this and this, then you can come back. And it was this, 3-month, I had to go to rehab, blah, blah, blah. And at first I was just like, dude, just mad and trying to get other people on I'm not even, I never kicked anybody out of SOAR. I was saying that. I was like, and now they're kicking people out. But Frank did that for me.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like, cause I couldn't hear anybody, so it was just like, boo, you're done. This is a gym you built, but so what? It's bigger than you. You can't be around anymore.
Right.
And I was pissed, but
And
my mindset shifted, and I was like, you know what? These guys are doing this for me because I can't hear them. And maybe if they know, get me off payroll, my money starts to suffer. I can't, And then another thing, my wife, dude, I was like 2 weeks into rehab, doing that partial hospitalization program, and I got the idea to smoke. I was like, I just want to take an edible, dude. And I asked Autumn, I asked my wife, I was like, I'm thinking about taking an edible, dude, today. And she looks at me and she says, if you keep this up, I'm going to have to leave you. She said that to me, and she was serious, and she's never, because when I was going through all my stuff all summer, like Frank and those guys were telling her, like, you got to draw harder, be harder. And my Autumn's always stuck with me, dude. Like, she's my angel. You know what I'm saying? But when she said that to me, I was like, oh, all right. Yeah, I don't want to do an edible. I don't know what I was thinking, I don't know why, but you know how you just goes kind of, you're suffering so bad just trying to get those first couple weeks sober.
right.
But like, Yeah, you're right. And, I don't know. I don't know what the problem is for maybe we get off the subject. I don't know what the solution is for the homeless, but I know if you make it too easy, yeah, it'll just be too easy for them to stay homeless.
It's just like with the politics, right? Huck, there's too many different opinions. And,
yeah.
And I'm sure the opinion that we spoke here, people would be like, oh, they're dead wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, dead wrong.
Yeah, those guys are just a couple drug addicts talking
right.
about politics.
What do they know? Like,
yeah.
And, back to your little contract thing, the reason you were so pissed is because you were still trying to run the show, right? Yeah. It always goes back to that. It really does. Like
me trying to control
it. Control the situation,
I still want to, Kratom's not, I was saying this, I was like, Kratom's not that big a deal, dude. Like, everything's going good at home. Like, I remember telling this friend, guys, like, you guys are all, the only thing that's not going good in my life is sore because you guys are making it like that. Just the thinking errors and
right.
Yeah, man,
and we can still do that without any substances.
Mm-hmm.
Like we still can be in that mode day after day, and so that's why we have the tools and the principles in recovery that we need to use on a daily and even a minute basis, throughout the day, or else we're screwed. Yeah. I know I'm screwed if I don't do A, B, and C every day. Like I know it. I know I've tried it. And I don't want to do it. I don't want to live that way. And be restless, everyone discontent on a daily basis, and be unhappy with myself and not love myself. Because then I start to gear back into that world again.
Yeah.
Start to, do things that you wouldn't normally do.
What do you think about the 12 steps, bro? Like, okay, so me, we're 12-step guys, and it's getting, I don't know, are you seeing it being pulled out of a lot of places? Like, there's a lot of people, I kind of look at the 12 steps as like, okay, it's a God program, and God in general, or Christ in general, is kind of like religion is down across the United States. You know what I'm saying? It's not as popular to be in a religion. You know what I'm saying? Like, is that happening with the 12 steps?
Yeah, it is. Like, especially a lot of these higher end treatment places, that aren't 12-step based, that are more evidence-based practice programs, look down on the 12 steps, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And don't consider it evidence-based practice. I mean, but come on, that's been around since 1939, and you're going to choose this little evidence-based practice that you just ran through, like a couple hundred people, and call it evidence-based practice. You know what I mean? Like, come on, I guaranteed we could get so many more people clean and keep them clean if they would let me implement the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous into my treatment center.
What's the deal? Is it go back to just the same thing because of money, because the 12 steps is free?
Yeah.
Because AA is free. And so they're like, but then they bring people in to the treatment center and they try to, it's like, I mean, we have our methodology here with the exercise and stuff, but at the foundation, the way to really get people sober here is to help them find God.
Right.
That's what the 12 steps does.
Right, and do the work.
Yeah.
You got to work on that inner self, inner stuff, you know what I mean? And have the inner stuff reflect the outer world, you know what I mean? Not have the outer world reflect the inner, Yeah. It has to be the other way, right?
But like, what's with, I don't know. I guess where I want to go is why are people hardened against the 12 steps? Is it because of God?
Well, yeah, that's
like
exactly
the higher power side of it.
That's exactly what it is. They think that it's a religious program, and they see the word God in there, and they immediately turn their back against it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even myself, I was kind of the same way. And you hear a lot of people, oh, I've tried the AA program. I've tried the AA program, and you ask them certain questions, they're like, well, have you been through the 12 steps? No. Have you got a sponsor? No.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
I've been to the meetings, they don't work, you know.
Yeah. Oh, I just want to use after I go to a
Right.
meeting.
And so
Yeah.
you've never really worked a program of
Right.
recovery, you know, like and that's what I ask those people that say the meetings don't work, you know. I've tried the meetings, you know, but no, have you found a sponsor? Have you gone through the 12 steps and had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps? You know what I mean? Have you tried to carry the message to other alcoholics? You know, have you worked with other alcoholics? And they usually say no, you know. And so that's why I think the whole God thing, people get very turned away, and they think that it's a religious program when in all actuality it's a spiritual program.
Yeah.
You know, and so
And a lot of people struggle with step one of the powerless. Like, what's the deal with that? Like, why is it so hard for people to admit they're powerless? Is it because they just want to, they don't want to say that? Like, because they can do it? Like,
Right.
And, or a lot of people think that it's like you're trying to hammer it in your head. And I actually got resentful at step one when I was going through my stuff. I was like, oh, I'm not powerless. I just have to do this. Like, you know, like, what is it with step one? Why are people have a hard time with that one?
Well, example, I have a good friend of mine. I've known him since we were probably 6 years old, and you know, and we used together, and he's still out there using, and he still has the mentality. You know, he still says those words, "I got this." You know, and those are the three words that you never want to hear someone in recovery say, "I got this," because we don't got this. You know,
But
like we don't.
But people want to. They would get mad that you just said that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
What do you mean? I
absolutely.
don't got it. Like,
You know, they don't. I mean, look at and then you have to point out their track record. Look, you're on the street, still homeless. You just lost your car. You know what I mean? You just got busted for drugs, and you still say that you got this figured out. You can still figure this out, and you've been at it for 33 years. You know,
Yeah. yeah,
and some people won't ever make it to that point, right, where they can truly surrender and realize, you know what? Maybe I really am powerless. Like, I didn't understand why I did. Like, I knew my life was unmanageable, right, Hawk?
Yeah.
But I didn't understand the powerless part until somebody took me through the 12 steps and explained it to me. And I read that doctor's opinion, and I learned about the physical allergy and the mental obsession, you know, that phenomenon of craving, and it explained how I never can safely ever use alcohol or drugs without going through those stages of change. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Just like when you tried that Feel Free, right? And you
Yeah.
put one in, and you're like, oh man, I have arrived, right?
yeah,
And then what happened?
Justified.
That mental obsession took over, and then the physical allergy, right? And you went through those stages, and then you started popping more, right? And that's how it is. So, with us knowing that, we can't ever safely use any substances I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd love to have a cold beer on a hot summer day, but I can't because I know where it will go. I have abused it so frightfully that it's been withdrawn from my life.
yeah. You're
you
not
know?
trying to miss Christmas again.
No, right? Right? Yeah. Like someone asks, hey, do you want to have a drink? No, I got plans for Christmas, you know? Like, and they're like, they look at me like, what are you talking about?
That is so funny, bro.
If I start drinking, I'm missing Christmas.
You know, I said this before, but like, I think this time I really did a step one. Like, I just know, like, I can't put anything in. I just can't. I remember you would always say in our groups, like, you'd say that one, you know, I got plans for, and I would always be like, I could drink, I could smoke, like, you know, and literally, I guess there just was a little back door open, you know, thinking like, but like, dude, I'm not there anymore. I am where you're at. Where I say, you know, I can't do it. And, you know, Jim at Action.
Yeah.
That dude, he taught me a lot, bro. Like, that guy's cool.
We love Jim. Me and Sandy, we absolutely love Jim.
I mean, a dude is just so spiritual, wanting to help people. Like, but he would always kind of talk about, like, if you gathered enough evidence. And for step one.
Right.
You know, like and like, you know, you really do that step one, like at action, you did a pretty gnarly step one. And like, is there enough evidence here to tell me that I am powerless? I believe so. You know, you do one of those step ones, like even the one out of the manual where you sit there and you journal and you answer those questions and you study the book about everything. That's where you should be able to gather that evidence. And then, you know, some of these younger kids who are starting to get DUIs and all this, it's like, have you gathered enough evidence? Maybe you haven't. Maybe you got to keep going and seeing what else, you know, because they're not going to stop.
Right.
You won't stop you might get a little time, but if you really have that reservation and you're like, and you still think you can do it, I can get 5 or 6 months. Like you're gonna go back out. You know what I mean?
And that's
because you want to.
That's what I mean with step one, Huck. Like, so us sitting here, right? Like, step one, like gathering the evidence. You know, spending 17 years of my life gathering the evidence, right?
Yeah.
Like,
17 years.
Yeah, 17 years of drug addiction, alcoholism is enough evidence for me, you know. So when I finally got into treatment, and what that step one means to me is that I had no more reservations in my heart or in my body whatsoever. Like, it's going to be different next time. Like, that had all been smashed. And I always like to share that with my guys. So, like, if you're sitting there and you're still thinking, well, maybe I can have a drink down the road, or maybe it's going to be a little different, then you still have reservations, right? And you're most likely going to drink and use again, you know? So...
And you can't convince them, huh?
No, they have to gather the evidence themselves, right? Till they're done. They have to go out there and skin their knees a little bit more until they're truly done. And unfortunately, some of them make it and some of them don't. You know, I wish these kids that were like 19, 20 years old would listen to some of the people that have been in the program for a long time, so they wouldn't have to waste like 15 more years of their life and then be in the program at 35 and 40 going, God, those guys were saying this shit 20 years ago, you know. I wish I would have listened, but unfortunately they had to go through that, right, to get them to be where they're at now, so they could finally truly surrender and throw up that white flag, right? So
one of the deepest things you said to me, bro, when I was going through it all, and I never forget this, probably one of the deepest things, it was simple, is I was telling you, and I said, I was like saying, bro, I can't stop. Like, I can't, like, what do I do? And you said, you're going to have to let it run its course. Like, I thought that was deep, because at the time I was like, I remember getting off the phone with you and I was like, what did he mean? And then I was like, well, I didn't really understand it until now, because it's kind of that same thing. Like, no one was really going to be able to tell me that I need to, like, because I didn't really want to stop. I thought I could keep doing it, and it had to run its course where little consequences had to start happening, and you know what I'm saying?
Right.
To where I could see the truth. But that was an interesting comment. What was that? Like, where'd that come from?
Well, because it's like, once we feed the beast, right, he's taken over completely, and he's not going to be done with you until he's done with you, right? And so what I meant by that comment was, and I'm so grateful, Hawk, that it didn't get to that, where you had to give your wife away,
right,
and give your kids away, and give your earthly possessions away, right. You know what I mean? I had to do that several different times, you know, and I'm grateful that you didn't have to do that. And so that's what I meant by, you just got to let it ride its course. Like there's really no stopping it until you're done. I mean, even us sitting here praying to God, right? Praying to God and applying this action in your life, that still wasn't enough, right? Like, you had to let it run its course. And sometimes people make it and some people don't, you know? So you're one of the fortunate ones for sure.
I
You know,
appreciate you saying that to me and helping me. Like, I don't know. I just want you to know. We haven't talked as much, but I really want to start talking more.
oh, I'd love it. I'd love it, Hawk.
I missed you. You know,
I
for those
miss
who
you
are
guys.
listening, Tyler's my sponsor. But I don't know. It was an interesting journey. You know, it's interesting how both me and you been on like a weird journey like this past 2 years. Cause yeah, you were suffering. Would you say you were suffering just as bad? Like,
Yes,
even though you weren't picking up?
I do. I truly believe I was living in that addictive behavior because I was resting on my laurels and I wasn't enlarging my spiritual program of recovery.
God, is it God? Like, is it accountability? So like a guy like you who God's put in a position to help a lot of people. Like you are known around town and in this area for getting a lot of people sober, right? And helping people, and your wife too. Do you think God, there's a certain level of accountability, like God's like, all right, I need to let you suffer because you're getting off track as far as using your talents.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. For sure. 100%. 100%. He's like, all right, you want to take the realms again? You want to take the steering wheel back and try to control this again, and you know where it's going to go, right? But you still do it anyways, right? And so absolutely, I believe I had to go through those things so I could enlarge that spiritual contact with him, you know, and grow closer to him and build a stronger relationship with him. Because like I said, I wasn't making him bigger than my problems.
Yeah. And then now you're going to be more useful to him because you had that experience.
Absolutely.
Because he pulled you back, and now you know that you're going to have to stay next to him so that he can keep working through you to help others.
And even talking with, you know, Sandy, and she's well aware, I'm well aware that I have to be fully engulfed and involved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what's worked for me. Doesn't mean it's going to work for anybody else, but I mean, the going to the meetings, going to the recovery events, sponsoring people, you know, working in the field, you know, just to stay ahead of a possible slip, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's what works for me.
I don't know. I'm into I always bring this up, but I'm into the premortal existence thing. And people believe in it or don't believe it. I don't think it matters either way if you believe in it or don't believe in it. But I think I honestly think like a guy like you there was more to it in the premortal existence, and you're a fighter for your calling is to come down in here and work with people. You know, me too. And you have those talents, you know, where anybody could come up to you and you wouldn't judge them because of what you've been through. You could just hear them out and be helpful. And that's a unique talent. Like, not everybody's got that. So I keep going back to the word accountability, and I don't want to say God is mad or it's a scary word, but there is something about the gifts and talents and God putting you in a platform to help people where there is some accountability to following through with what he wants you to do. And a part of that is if you get off track, you're going to go back out and learn, and you're going to suffer. But then when you get back on it, you're going to be closer to him and you're going to be able to hear his voice, you know?
Well, right. And say we don't get it right this time around, right, Hawk?
Yeah.
And then we have to go do this again, right? Like after we die, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you never know, right?
Right.
Like in another, you know, like I hope not, you know,
Yeah.
like we want to try to do it to the best of our ability, you know, and I don't want to, God, I don't want to die, out there using
Yeah.
and drinking, you know. I don't want to go down that road. it would affect too many people's lives, and it would just devastate my children and my family. Like
Yeah.
I just and so that kind of keeps me. I don't want to hurt them again. I
Yeah.
don't. So I've hurt them way too much. So
It's so sad, like the people who die with the overdose. We've had a lot of people pass away in here. But another thing that I'm loving about where my belief's going is that is God's rehab, where some people just can't get sober in this life, right? They just can't, or it takes them too early, or they never got a chance to work the steps, or they never got a chance to find God, and the fentanyl takes them early. I like the belief that Christ grabs them, throws them over his shoulder, and he walks them into his rehab, and then other angels and stuff are working the steps with them,
right,
and help, and he, in God's rehab.
right,
That's where I'm choosing to believe. That's where my faith is going. Is it talks about in the scriptures, in the Bible, where there's many mansions. Have you heard that part?
mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of mansions, rehabs.
Right.
Like where people are that passed back and didn't get the opportunity to hear and work the steps, and so there's just all these guys that have, and student to coach and sponsors working with people in the next life. And I think that belief right there can be very comforting for a family. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I like that, God's rehab, because I've been hearing God's program a lot lately.
Yeah.
So
yeah, God's rehab.
Yeah,
like why
that's cool.
wouldn't he have some rehabs
Right.
up there?
Right.
I'm no theologian, but that's anyway. That's what I'm choosing to believe. So there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I can do what I want. But God, I'm thankful, bro. I just let's plan on keeping in touch better.
Absolutely.
I need to. We're both busy, but at least we can text and
Right.
start doing some stuff with our journaling in the morning. I'll start sending you mine, and we can keep in contact like that. Don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah, 'cause
Absolutely.
I need you in my life.
I need you in my
Yeah,
life too.
bro.
I can't do this without you.
And what about here? Can we? I don't know. I need you to start coming and meeting all these new people. Like we got some new people that are. It's cool.
Yeah,
You
I
know what
saw
I'm
a
saying?
lot of them that were when they came over to help me move my house.
Yeah.
That was so cool. Like me and Sandy were just overwhelmed with gratitude. Just
Yeah.
the amount with the sore people that showed up and stuff. Like it was just was such a huge blessing to be able to just move all that stuff in a couple hours. Like
Yeah.
so many people showed up in the recovery community from Valley Camp and SOAR that
Yeah.
we knocked it out, and like which would have taken a couple days was done in like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like
It's because you're a bright light, bro.
so it was just
I know you don't like compliments, but you're a bright light to a lot of people. You've saved a lot of people's lives, and
I've been very emotional lately, and I think it's because I've been having like this new spiritual awakening with life,
Yeah.
and like getting to know myself again in this newer body. You know what I mean? I'm finally shedding that old stuff. I think, and so it's been a wild ride. You know what I mean?
so cool to see you moving in that house, bro.
Yeah.
So financially, it's coming up.
Yeah.
Like
It's
you're getting healthier financially.
yeah, and it's God, I feel more comfortable in that house than I did at the old house that we were there for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
Like I've been sleeping beautifully in this house. You know what I mean? And we're on a mattress that we've had for almost 13 years. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like and it's just Sandy's a little upset because she's been sleeping crappy, but but I've just been sleeping magically.
It's all right.
You know.
Just be selfish.
Right. Someone needs to sleep, right?
Yeah,
So,
bro. I know. I'm so happy to see you in that house. Like,
Yeah, it was.
and then all those, just Paul and just all your buddies and just people you've helped get sober. And Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, it's
We talk about you all the time in here.
yeah.
You know, so that's why I got to get you at least coming and telling your story like once a month or something, or
Yeah, I'd love to.
like at least once through the 12 weeks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just
Absolutely.
have you come over and tell your story.
Yeah, and I think we were going to set something up with Frank
Yeah.
to come in, to have Sword like come do a group out at our house and break bread and stuff, you know, and just
Oh,
do
yeah.
do like a little
At your house?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
fellowshipping, you know.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, so that's in the works. So just a little gratitude and thanks for you guys for helping
Yeah.
us move, you know. So
All right, bro.
Yeah.
Love you, man.
I love you too.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you
Glad
for
we
having
got-
me.
Glad we got to come up here and talk.
Yeah, it's the stuff like this that helps us stay clean.
We'll
you
do
know?
it again. We'll do
Yeah.
it like we'll just do this, you know, again. And
I'd love to do it again.
all right, brother. Good
Okay,
stuff.
good stuff.